Hello, everyone. Namaskar. It's very good to see you're all so patient. We will try and really rush this through. I do want to use this opportunity, though the agenda of the program has placed 5 bullet points, and aging is one aspect, health is one aspect, and I'm very passionate about these topics, and I will talk about them. But before I get to that, I do want to use this opportunity to give you a sense of economy 2.0 from at least the way we are viewing what is India's strategy emerging as, let's say, for the next 30 years. Well, you're all very familiar with the global conditions. It's not just COVID, but also the war, which has led to tremendous tensions in the energy space. And that, in some sense, should give you a degree of appreciation for why countries, and India in particular, is moving as far as Atmanirbharta is concerned. Now, the risk of Atmanirbharta is always, and we are all old enough to remember that we have lived through decades of protectionism when the economy grew very slowly. So that is a risk that we have to be mindful, and I think a lot of reforms is about taking that into cognizance. We do want competition. We do want firms to adopt best practices, new technology, but at the same time, we also have to attain or aspire to attain strategic autonomy or strategic independence in certain key sectors. And there's an essay which I have just written, which is coming out, and I'll be happy to share. 3 areas that are core are food, energy, and defense. In each of these, and these are of strategic interest, and not just the pandemic, but also the war and the energy crisis is making each of these needs that much more reinforced. So food security, you are seeing, and Sri Lanka is, of course, the immediate concern point, but there are many economies in Africa, there are many in now Eastern Europe, etc., who are all on the verge of facing food security problems. So India, over the last 50 years, you know, we had the Green Revolution, and though it started from the western part, gradually it did move towards the east. India has attained self-sufficiency. In fact, there is something called Food Production Index. India has steadily risen in that. There was a time when food was 30% of our merchandise import, just 45 years back. Today, it is less than 4%. So gradually, the country has moved in that direction, and that effort is coming to fruition. The second is, of course, energy. Now, of course, Jayant spoke very eloquently about the need for renewable, but energy, we have to understand, we import close to 35% of our total energy use. That is a very large number. Now, the US used to be more than 30% till 2005. But in recognizing why it is of strategic importance, they have now brought it below 9%. So it requires a policy. They didn't call it Atmanirbharta, but effectively that is what it was. You have to think strategically in terms of developing autonomy, developing self-sufficiency in these core sector. That is where the push for renewable becomes very important. Because, of course, renewable has cost issues right now. Very importantly, that despite us wanting to push for renewables, and for it to become a mass movement like Green Revolution did become, we do need not just central government to play ball, we need local administration, we need state governments and industry to also play ball. In fact, renewable energy, thanks to Hydel, was 59% of our overall energy was renewable about 50 years back. Today, it is 30%. So clearly, because our energy requirement and usage on the whole is rising, renewable is becoming a smaller part of it, but it is nowhere close to what we are aspiring, but it needs to be done. So in that space, you also have to understand why this big push for renewable, why the talk of saffron or the orange revolution that the Prime Minister keeps talking about. And finally, defense. I think it's remarkable that India is now signing contracts of $100 million in selling missiles. In fact, the most important contract just came through vis-a-vis Philippines. So autonomy, or in some sense, self-sufficiency in defense, and you are seeing with respect to the war, the growing global concern for us also managing relationship with Russia. All of it is just getting so much more complicated that, again, without becoming autarkies, these pushes us towards. But at the core of all of this, technology is important, but eventually we have to invest in our people. Because human capital, it is people that build nations. You cannot build nations on the back of unhealthy and unskilled people. So even the Ukraine crisis, 20,000 students were brought back. It has to, it does give us a sense of why investment in higher education, why we need to be able to provide opportunities for the aspirations of our youth, and why at the core of all of this is strategically is our human capital. So the question in terms of aging, global economy is aging. The OECD country is aging very fast. In fact, China's big concern today is they are going to grow old before they become rich. And that is where India's opportunity is, that India has the manpower. We are the largest suppliers of doctors and nurses, and that might be an unfortunate thing at some extent when you look at what kind of supply we have for in-house, but that just tells you that it is a growth opportunity as well. Health sector has the potential to do for India over the next 50 years what IT sector did in the last 30 years. Because there is a growing demand. No country has managed to lower cost for healthcare. So health is going to become a strategic sector, and it becomes an important engine of growth if we make the right investments in human capital. So I'll stop there and I'll take questions later.